All right, so we are here with episode 4 of the Done Investor Podcast. My name is Koukun.
My name's Ryan.
And today we're going to go over a six-plex investment opportunity and kind of chat about where the market's at, especially in the Niagara region of Ontario.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I like the property, so it's going to be a cool one to go through.
Yeah, this is a good one. Let's start with just the basic financials of this property. So it's on Hager Street in Welland. It's a
purpose-built six-plex.
Yeah.
All 2-bedroom units.
Perfect. And listed at 900,000, which is very decent for a six-plex. I think one of our previous episodes had a six-plex close to 1.2, 1.25.
Yeah.
So great price. We ran a basic scenario here with, so RBC is one of the few residential lenders that allow you to finance a six-plex. So we've used those numbers. There is the opportunity also to look at CMHC insured financing that potentially can even go higher in terms of loan to value.
You probably need to do a few things to the property from a renovation perspective to meet your points, but something you could do.
It is a bit more of a complex type of mortgage to get approved for, but it is something we have access to. But anyways, we've put this to start with. So first off, the rental amount really stands out. It's over 1% of the purchase price, right?
When have you seen a 1% rule on Southern Ontario?
Yeah, especially on a purpose-built six-plex. Like that is, most of the time these buildings actually come at like half of market rent.
Yes.
Right, and then
that's the one unique thing here is that you've got 5 of the 6 units are at market rent. You got 4 units at $1,700, one at $1,650. And then you got the one who's been there forever at $850.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's nice that you have most of the excuse me, units at market rent, and then there's still obviously a little bit of value add potential for when that other one does turn over. So
yeah, and then in terms of expenses, we've plugged in some of our best estimates. We've used some information from the listing. I've put in here sort of a property management fee. This mortgage is estimated based on the information above. The only thing I didn't use what was on the MLS listing was the insurance. They had it at a much lower amount, which may be like a grandfathered policy.
I think they've had the property for a long time, and so they get little bumps. But if you go to actually purchase it, you're going to get dinged a little bit more. So
just did a quick search in terms of where six-plex insurance quotes are at. This is an estimate, obviously. Part of the process is to verify these numbers,
of course.
But from an overall cash flow standpoint, after property management, to clear $2,600 a month, and that's on a $250 investment. Like these are some decent numbers.
Yeah,
some decent numbers.
They are. I would say they're very good numbers. I mean, you don't really get purpose built and kind of like the juicy numbers. You usually get one or the other, right? You get purpose built and you get kind of not great numbers that you got to usually lift because a lot of these have long-term tenants.
Yeah.
Or you get the high numbers, but it's not purpose built and it's not really. That's kind of like upper class assets. So.
Yeah. And then when you look at the 3 different buckets of profit, like. This is where it's interesting when the cash flow number starts getting bigger than the pay down or the
equity appreciation,
right? Now, this particular property, I think there's almost a case where at this price, you may be building some equity just on the purchase price. Just like it just seems too good to be true. Like we're getting a pretty solid deal on this. And this particular property, we know the listing agent. He's someone who, he's experienced enough that he's telling his clients to price properties attractively to move them in this market.
Exactly.
So because of that, I think this is maybe where it needs to be at for it to move, but it's also from an investment standpoint a very attractive price, right?
I would completely agree. Yeah, I think that this is one of those ones where I think I would be surprised. We'll see in a month when we come back. We'll definitely check it out. But I would be surprised if it didn't at least have an accepted offer or something like that.
Yeah.
That didn't have it because it's considerably below what other properties are listed for by a lot. And even if you look at what's traded, it's still priced at below what that is. So
100%.
You want to maybe look at the
So let's take a look at the. There's not a whole lot of pictures. It's just this. This is the one photo that they have. But you can see it's sort of brick construction. Sort of there's a main entryway exit. Typical sort of 4 units above grade, 2 units below grade.
You got 2 balconies. You got
balconies
each of the upper units, all the 4 units, they have balconies.
Balconies. parking around the back. Yeah.
And then I think another kind of point, if you want to open up the map there.
Yeah.
So this is on Hager Street, which I would say is kind of like a mixed street. Like if you go across the street, you see that big block complex there. That's like an industrial complex. Okay. So you've got like gyms, and you got 2 different gyms in there. You got like an HVAC heating in there. So it's kind of a little bit more industrial. That being said, in behind that, they've recently just built in 2 purpose-built apartment towers.
Okay.
And then they're trying to sell what was an old beer store, which is right across the street from it. I think that it's not going to sell for a while, but they're also doing it for residential development. So you're seeing particularly that side of the street. People are kind of, I don't know if gentrifying is the right word, but you're seeing money being invested into it for residential purposes. So I think that's a good sign when you're kind of getting it over there as well.
Well, I mean, my office is right here on East Main where we're recording this video. There's a new fire station here, new courthouse, and I've even seen across these streets, just sort of a couple blocks north, there's like some somewhat newer subdivision, or like not subdivisions, but like where they'll build a row of townhouses.
Yeah, you're getting
like
some infill. You're definitely getting some infill.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's it's definitely, again, we're not saying this is a great area per se, but it is an area that there's definitely going to be rental demand.
There's going to be strong. I think there's going to be strong rental demand. I think it's in a nice place where demand is right now, where it's not in like the premium neighborhoods asking for premium rents. Yeah. Right. You're kind of asking for what I would consider like very affordable rents in a safe neighborhood doesn't have like the premium price tag. Yeah. Right. So you kind of should have really no problem kind of filling those units.
Yeah. What else? So decent sized lot, 70 by 100, 6 units. Yeah. Yeah, so just listed on the market
5 days ago.
5 days ago, pretty much, right? Yeah, overall decent building.
Yeah, built in 67, kind of that.
Yeah, brick building. Yeah, you have to be the right type of investor for this. I guess let's talk about that. Who would be the right type of investor for a property like this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably not your first, although like the fact that it does have pretty much everybody at market rent, and you could kind of get a property manager in place from day one. If you did have the capital and you were looking to do something like that, I think it wouldn't be like a crazy one, because you don't have to do a lot of like unit flipping, turning over to make it work. Like it does cash flow from day one. But I think more likely you're probably on somebody that's, kind of maybe just getting into the more bigger space. Yeah. Where you're going from like a duplex or a triplex into something like that, 6 units, or even somebody who's already got a couple of these kind of more purpose-built rentals and they're just kind of adding to their portfolio. It's not really something where you're going to have a lot of value add potential. Your value add potential is going to be more in kind of working on that, like the CMHC financing, right? Like if you purchase this on the buy with like traditional financing, do a few things to the property to help you get those MIL points. That's where I think you're going to kind of see your equity at, so to speak, right?
I think that may be the case to be made, because I think the rents are already pretty decent, but if you can do renovations, like I believe the listing agent mentioned that there was some deferred maintenance around the building. So if you almost make a budget to like, okay, what are the things around the building I need to fix, and at the same time get those MLI sort of points. And through that process, then once the work's done, go back to refinance the building. And especially if you can reduce some of the operating expenses, like if there's room to reduce some of the utility bills, or
because right now you're paying all the rents are inclusive.
Yes.
Right. So even with the rents inclusive, obviously it still works really well. Yeah. But as you kind of, it's one of those things you don't need to do right away. But over time, if you can kind of reduce some of those expenses, you can put some of those expenses on the tenant and reduce them on yourself from efficiencies, then your numbers are going to start to look a lot better. Yeah. Right. I would say like you do have a pretty broad pool here, because the entry price point, like, we were seeing triplexes sell for this. Yeah. 4 years ago.
Not too long ago. Honestly, not too long ago. That is actually wild to think about. Like we've had triplex conversions go as high as this amount. So to get 6 units in a purpose-built brick building, it's and like if you think about even our investor from before, where they'd put in like say 150 to purchase the place, but still need another $100,000 to finish the basement, that's roughly the down payment on on a property like this, right? It's not that out of the price range, so to speak. So
yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I know, like when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh, so maybe this is the time kind of thing. But no, I think it's like what I would call like a great, like I think the asset itself is a really good building that you can add some value to. The location is like quality. It's not like, fantastic. And then the price point's obviously pretty good for a 6-plus. It's like the great entry level 6-plus price point, right? So you do have a bit of a broad buyer pool. If you've got somebody that's got about $250,000 that they're looking to kind of invest, you're going to see some pretty good returns on something like this, and have the opportunity to. Again, you're not buying this to sell it in 2 years, right?
Yes.
This is something that, I mean, when the tornadoes come, we're going to go run to this building because it's not going anywhere, right? Like solid, purpose-built brick, like that thing's going to survive. So it's one of those ones from like a long-term appreciation perspective. You're going to do pretty well as you kind of just maintain it over time. So,
yeah, I agree. All right, let's check in. We're now filming this in May of 26.
Cinco de Mayo, actually, May 5th.
May 5th. Oh, yeah. So what are we seeing right now overall in the real estate market? Like we were just chatting before this episode started, where it feels like 26 is a continuation of 25 and 24, where definitely the market has been like slow and prices have been on the downward trend.
You're getting both. Yeah. Like, I mean, you look month over month from a sales perspective. Yeah. And, every now and then you get an anomaly city, but if you look at like, Niagara as a whole or, Southern Ontario as a whole, you're seeing less sales than you saw last year at this month. Prices are down. We're definitely trending in that direction. I think there's a few factors involved in that. Some of that is real estate specific. Some of that is broader economic factors. But it's definitely, I was telling you, I think pretty much on a typical day, you're seeing about 100 new listings and you're seeing about 25 properties sell. Yeah. Right. So we're continuing to add inventory to the market. Now, I would say that a lot of that inventory is never going to sell because it's priced at a price point there's almost no point in listing it. You know what I mean? When you've got 6 other properties that are the same that are $50,000 or $100,000 lower, like good luck. Yeah. But it's just not going to happen. You're not going to sell it. The properties that are moving right now are the best properties. Like when I'm having conversations, I'm sure very similar to what this listing agent had with his seller. If you want to move it, you need to be the best property on the market in that class, in that price point, or in that class of what you're looking for. So properties are moving, particularly ones that I would say are a little bit either more unique or more desirable. Right? You look at those established neighborhoods, things that are priced well there, they move, right? If you got something that's a little bit more unique that doesn't come up every now and then, and again, it's priced well, you are finding that's moving or we're getting action on that, right? You got that cookie cutter home and like you're priced at or below where the most recent sale was, and you're not getting anything, like not even showings, right? So it's very product and price dependent, I would think, as to what's going on with the market. So
and I'll say on the mortgage side of things, we're seeing appraisals start to come back significantly less than what we were hoping for, mostly on refinances where we're trying to pull equity out of the property.
Have you seen many on like the buy that have come in too light?
That's more rare. That's more rare because usually in this market the buyer is getting a decent deal at the purchase price, and generally appraisers put a lot of weight to the price you're paying because if it's a fair market, like independent buyer, independent seller, they're sort of meeting in the market, right? But especially on refinances, like we've had some we had a recent deal that isn't going to go through anymore. It's a refinance of a legal triplex conversion. The last 2 we did, we got close to 800 in terms of the appraisal in Welland. And this last one just came in under 700, so about 690. And this was
how far apart were those appraisals? You're like
about a year.
About a year. Okay.
Yeah. So the first one happened in 24. The next one 25, and then the last one just happened now.
And so 24 and 25 are like the same price. And then we're about $100,000 less.
Now, the different properties slightly. The property I would say was slightly inferior, but the area was better. So like there's like different aspects to it. But just it becomes tough. Like even when we're working with appraisers that we have a relationship with that are going to try to help us get the amount we need, but they have to do it within their guidelines. And a big part of that is
still got to be able to justify it, right? I always tell you can kind of bend on an appraisal, so you can kind of bend it a little bit, but it's still got to be in
well, you need to have comparables that can justify it.
Exactly.
Right. And like in the last two, we got a little bit luckier where there were sales of nicer homes with 3 kitchens, that kind of thing. Versus now it's like when you look at, so if you're looking at this property as a decent deal, imagine what the 3-unit triplexes are selling for that we can use for comparables, right? So
yeah, you start to look at cap rates and stuff like that, and it's going to get very difficult there.
Yeah, so that it's definitely a tough environment. It's tough to like pull equity out of properties. Interest rates are relatively low now compared to the last couple of years, so you're not.
Yeah, you had a little bump up in the last little bit, but it's still
it's still very like. In terms of us running numbers on cash flows, that kind of thing, it's very normal. I guess it's more as an investor, if you're buying now, it becomes tough, right? Because you're almost trying to pick the bottom at a certain point. And I still remember this. So a couple of years ago, I was part of these like a real estate mastermind group, where a bunch of the other people were realtors from Alberta. And the curious part about it is our market was on fire. Their market was in a 5-year decline because oil prices had gone down. So I remember having conversations in like 2019, 2020. They were in the 5th year of their decline. And it just, the memory is vivid because I remember having one conversation where the realtor was saying he didn't think real estate in Alberta would go up for the next 20 years. So that was how low the sentiment had got. And then very shortly after, COVID happens, interest rates go down, oil prices go up, and like now they have probably one of the best markets.
They have probably one of the best markets in Canada right now. Yeah, like I remember this was about 6 months ago, but I was playing golf with a realtor from Alberta, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, "What's your market like?" You know, just kind of curious, stuff like that. And he's like, "Big sellers market," and I was like, "Sorry, pardon, big sellers market?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Alberta's back," and you know, it's funny how. Same real broad factors in Canada are vastly changing the different markets. You know, us in BC are much more kind of, I think, tied.
Yes.
You get into kind of oil country and things get a little bit more different. So,
well, the whole idea of bringing up that story was more that I think when people really throw in the towel from a sentiment perspective, where they're like, I think real estate's bad and it's not going to get any better. That is probably the cue that we're getting close to the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. And I think picking the bottom is a fool's game. That's where it's like
100%.
We go back to the financials. We go back to looking, hey, does the deal pencil in cash flow? Like, is it a deal where you can hold on to this thing for the long term to get the appreciation that comes over time?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right, where I think it's so often, you know, us as investors or investment advisors and investors themselves, everybody's kind of very concerned about external factors, right? And I think, you know, if you're talking about buying the S&P or, you know, something like that, I think maybe there's a little bit more of that. But when you're in real estate and it's a much more illiquid asset that really requires a long-term mindset, it should be more about the internal factors, which I feel like is counterintuitive to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's more about, okay, one, obviously, does the property make money, right? Whereas when, you know, people were buying properties and sentiment was high, the individual property case almost didn't make sense ever. But the broad external factors were like, oh, the market's going to keep going up, so now's the time that we need to buy, right? And so people were buying, people were putting themselves in situations, and we're seeing it now time and time and time again, that you're seeing bank sales, you're seeing foreclosures, you're seeing all this kind of stuff, or you're buying properties and the seller can't close. All these types of things that haven't happened for a couple of decades. But what caused that, generally speaking, was people looking at external factors and having that make their decision, right? If you're an investor right now, or you're a homeowner, or whatever you are, we should be looking at the internal factors. Okay, does the property make sense? Does it make money? Am I in a position where I want to be investing right now? Right? Like, what's your job security like? What are you doing at home? What are your savings like? What's your outlook going forward? Do you have a lot of personal expenses coming up, or are you kind of in a stable place and you've got some disposable income that you'd like to take advantage of something? Right? And I think when you can kind of flip that script from kind of looking at, oh, what is everybody saying? What is the market going to be doing? What is this going to be doing? And look at it more, okay, does this make sense for me in this current time? And there's going to be a lot of people where it does not, like, it doesn't make sense for you right now. So don't try and, utilize, oh, it's going to be the bottom of the market, so I should be buying right now. Like, that's not the case.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense for you and your situation right now, don't listen to the external factors and be scared by it, right? Like, if you're going to buy a property that's going to make you money every month and you're in a position where you have a little bit of bandwidth to deal with that, now could be an absolutely fantastic time to buy, even if it does go down the next year, because you're not buying it to sell in the next year. You're buying it because it fits you and your lifestyle. And again, the investment number still obviously makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think don't do that. I feel like it's hard to do that.
It is hard to do that. And I think you bring up probably one of the best points about investing in general, which is to focus on what you can control, especially when it comes to your mindset, because like, how many conversations have we had with investors who, when they bought the property, told us they're a long-term investor, they want to keep it for 10, 15 years. And then as soon as the price goes down, they're like, yeah, if I can sell, I want to sell. Like, if we can get a price so that I can get out without losing too much, I'm ready to sell. It's like, what happened to that initial long-term mindset, right? Yes, the environment changed, but like you said, you don't want the external to constantly change your personal plan for that investment, right?
That's when you lose, almost a guarantee. If you I don't know if it's Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, but invert the problem.
Yeah.
How do I become poor? That's what you do.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, this is the unfortunate part. These are the cycles in real estate, but also in investing, that ultimately make people, like, there's not many people, like, the majority of the population does not benefit through the cycle, because they get excited as prices rise, as sentiment rises. They get fearful as it drops, so they sell and they buy basically at the absolute wrong times, right? Versus even if you buy at the peak, but like, if you can hold on, like, you have a chance of getting to the next peak, right? Now, it may take some time to get there. And then, of course, buying when it's low is also a very hard thing to do. But if you can manage to do that, then it's probably easier for you to get to the next peak, because your cost basis is at a lower price. But yeah, it's tough, because we are in this business where we get to talk to investors and work with them. And how busy were we when sentiment was high versus
when how many conversations did you and I have when the market was going up, where we kept saying, I don't think anybody's going to buy this year because the numbers don't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'd go and have our best year ever. And then the next year we'd be sitting around, at our little Christmas time, and we'd be like, man, I don't think anybody's going to buy next year. The numbers don't make sense. And
when bungalows hit 600K in Welland, I was like, we need to throw in the towel. I think we're out of business.
Yeah.
Like, the numbers don't pencil in. We can't make it work. Now, shortly after, rents rose. We started seeing, like, upper unit, lower unit rents almost bump up a couple of $100 each. So then it's like, okay, now we still have a bit more margin to work with. But I remember that, like, when the first one or two sales of bungalows around that price happened, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, our window is closing, and obviously
it closed, but we had a good bit of runway after that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you had a good bit of runway after that. Even when we were at the peak of the peak, you still had people trying to make things work. Right? And it's when you're at the peak and sentiment's high and you're having conversations with clients, and again, this is generic conversation, the majority, like, and they're just like, okay, well, how can we make these numbers work?
Yeah.
Well, if I start, calculating my equity pay down and this, then my numbers are like, not bad. Right? And now it's more like, okay, well, your numbers are actually good.
Yeah.
But people are more like, how can I not make this work?
Yeah.
Right? You have the exact...
You start putting buffers. You're like, oh, what if it drops another 10%? What if like I have a 3-month vacancy every year? What if, like, you put all these what ifs together, then every deal won't pencil in. Right?
Yeah.
So
it's funny how that definitely shifts things, right?
I still remember I made a video right at the peak of the market, and I forget what it was titled. If you go on my YouTube channel, you can find it. Something along the lines of, like, I don't know if the market's unsustainable or it was just mainly from a personal experience where there was a home down the street from where I lived, and it sold at like 600 or 650, and 6 months later it sold at 950. And I was like, a 50% increase over 6 months. And I was like, okay, something is wrong. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was smart enough to recognize it. I wasn't smart enough to do something about it. Right? Like, I didn't then act on that idea. But I remember one of our clients who watched the video, and I heard this from one of the team members on our team from back then. That client was saying like, yeah, Koukun's crazy. Like, this, like, nothing's gonna happen, or something to that effect of like, yeah, he's just like, this is not what he said, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I didn't have like a clear like, you need to exit, anything like that. It was just more like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I can't see how this is normal, sustainable, anything like that. And to be fair, I went on to purchase a property. When did I buy my last rental? During that time, it was shortly before that. I think I bought the property in December, and then I made the video in like January.
Okay. Yeah.
And I still closed on that property in like February or March. But it's, it's in hindsight, right? In hindsight, there's some decisions that could have been done differently, but I think generally it's tough to pick. Like, it's tough to pick the tops, tough to pick the bottoms. The only thing you can really control is what are your financials going in,
what are you,
and what is your bandwidth to hold it long enough to see a good outcome.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, I mean, if you look at hedge funds, how many of them beat the market? Almost none. These are the, like, you know, whatever, you can think what you want, but like, these are really, really smart people.
Sure.
Okay. That like understand things way beyond the level that at least I do, and probably you do, and most of our people watching do. And they can't beat the market. And that's because they're trying to make all these things work. Right. And so when you try and beat the market, or you try and do that, that's when I think you can really open yourself up to problems, right? Like, if you, and I don't know which property you're talking about, but I know, like, I bought the house that I'm currently living in at the end of 2022. And I remember at that time, I was like, one, we were planning on moving. This was always kind of our plan.
Yeah.
But then two, I was also like, oh, like, the market's in a little bit of a dip right now. External factors, like, maybe this is a really good time to buy. That being said, the numbers made sense for us personally, right? And so, like, yeah, okay, what interest rates have went up. We have a variable. We saw all this stuff. You know, wow, great times. But the good thing is like, it did still make sense for us to do it at that time. We weren't stretching ourselves. Yeah. We were making sure that, like, you know, even if there was a buffer, if things went through, and I'm gonna keep holding the property. I'm not bad that I bought it, and everything's okay, right? If I would have stretched myself to buy because I did think that it was the time and it was more about the external factors, I would be like a lot of people right now, where you are seeing power. Like, it's wild looking at how many power of sales. I would actually, we could maybe look into this, but I would love to see the number of listings right now that are power of sales. And then I would really like to see the number of sales, not just the number of listings that are power of sales. So I would be willing to wager that the percentage of that is even higher, because they have to sell. And you see that, and you know that, right? So.
I think it feels like we're seeing a lot because we never saw them before.
Yeah, because the market just always went up.
Yeah, and those are the properties that are transacting because a lender is going to move that property at whatever price it takes.
Yeah, right? They have to sell.
They have to sell. They're not emotional. They already know they're taking a loss on it. So they're like, whatever the loss is, let's get it done with. Let's move on. So you see those transactions, but it's not like, in terms of a percentage of the market that's going into power of sales that is going to move the needle.
I don't think it's like that. It's going to move the needle. It's more that, like, if you look at, you know, like, these are nominal numbers here. We haven't done this, but like, if you look at, say, like 2022, how many properties were power of sales? Point something percent.
Well, I think you'd really have to screw something up to go into a power sale when prices were high.
When prices were like that, because you could refinance, you could do something like that, right? Yeah. And then, I mean, I would say each year since then, again, maybe you were still very, very low in 2023. Yeah. A little bit higher in 2024. 2025, you actually started to notice them. Like, it was like, oh, we're starting to see more of these. This is happening. And now you're seeing a lot of it happen. Yeah. And we're also seeing, like, you know, in my office, like, I've seen, talking with, you know, our broker of record and other things like that, like, there have been multiple properties in our office this year. We have a small office. We're like 30 agents where people have bought them and then stuff comes up after and the buyer can't close. The buyer can close, but the seller can't afford to sell it.
Wow.
Right? And these are situations like you're talking to lawyers, you're talking to mortgage brokers, and they're just like I was on the phone with a guy the other day. He's a guy at TD, and he's like, so can you explain this to me? He's like, I don't understand. He's like, the seller can't close? I'm like, yeah, the seller can't close. He's like, man, I've never seen this I don't know how long the guy's been in the business or whatever, but like, he's the TD rep, and he's just like, I've never seen this. I need you to explain this to me. And you're starting to see that more and more and more, right? And so I think that's a sign of the times, and I think that, like, obviously there's a percentage of those people that just, bad circumstances happen. There's sometimes things you can't do, but I think a lot of them were people got caught up in and then they made a decision not maybe based on their own personal things, and they're in a way worse spot now. So
yeah, I mean, this is not fully an investment conversation, but I will say one of the best decisions that I feel I made was in buying our primary residence. It was in 2021. The value has come down since our purchase, but we just didn't, like you said, we didn't stretch ourselves to make that purchase. And that decision, like in hindsight, is probably one of the ones we appreciate the most. We're like, we don't feel like we're getting crushed. We saw our interest rate go from 1.5% to like 6.5%. And even then we're like, but we can afford, as crazy as it sounds, like the 6.5 was a bit painful. I was
tough times. I had 6.3. It was very tough. It was very difficult, but
like it was manageable, and we just like not putting yourself in a place where you're forced to make a decision. It's like getting margin called, right? Like if you borrow money to invest in like stocks, and you do it in a way where when things are low, you're forced to sell, is the worst, right?
That's how big problems arise.
That's how money is lost.
I mean, there's a couple movies on it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think that, like, for those watching, it's like you want to make the best decision you can for yourself, whether that's investing, whether that's buying a home. You want to like make decisions that, like, you can't not do anything ever. That's not a strategy either.
No.
So it's like you have to like make some decision. And like for those who choose never to invest in real estate or own real estate, that's fine as well. Like that's a path.
Yeah.
But like if you choose to say like, hey, I have a family, I want to live in a certain neighborhood, I want my kids to go to a school, and like I want to own a house, then it's like, okay, just as much as possible, stay within your means for that home purchase. When it comes to investment properties, like look for properties that have cash flow, that you're getting in at a bit more of a reasonable entry price, where you're not just stretching personally, but also not stretching on the property to make the numbers work. I see that a lot happen on newer built properties where they're like, but it's a nice new property, it'll last forever, and I want to have maintenance, but then you're paying just a little bit too much for the rent that property can generate, right? So
I mean, and it is and like on the flip side of that, I've had a couple conversations recently with non-investors, just regular end user people, friends of mine who are their careers, they're doing well right now. They're like, they've moved from 30 to 35 in the last 5 years, and their incomes went up. Right? They bought a house maybe at the peak. They bought a house, and their house is worth less right now. But they've had a kid, or they've had two. They maybe still want to consider upgrading. And their financial position is better than it was. And you get two sides generally. Well, you usually have a couple or something like that about what the decision is, right? And sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to lose money on my house. And it's like, okay, well, what do you want in 5 or 10 years? Well, I really want to be in that neighborhood that we're talking about. Well, right now it's going to be probably one of the cheap, when you lose money on the house that you bought, that's when you're going to get that house for better, right? And so again, if it's a personal decision and makes sense financially, because ultimately it's about the delta, right? Like what's the difference between the two properties? And just very basic math, when both properties go down equally, the delta is going to shrink, right? And so if your financial situation has put you in a better thing, don't get all hung up on being like, oh, well, I lost 20 grand on my house. Well, if the situation that you want, if you can pull it off for less than you could before, it could still be a very good decision for you, right? I'm not saying that it is. Everybody's unique situation is there, but those are conversations that I have. Like I had a conversation with a husband and a wife the other day, and the wife's like, yeah, I really want to move right now. We're going to have our second kid, all this other kind of stuff. And the husband's like, I just don't want to like lose money on our house. And I kind of said something to them that like had almost the reverse effect of what I was going to think it was.
Okay.
And I was like, listen, like, you know, the husband didn't want to sell. And I was like, listen, if you do this right now, you're going to buy probably a less expensive house. And financially speaking, you'll probably be better. And then I looked at the wife and I said, listen, if you guys wait a little bit longer, you know, I know he's going to continue to progress in his career. I'm like this and that. You're probably actually going to get a nicer house.
Okay.
Because you guys are going to be worth more. Yeah. You're going to have more things and this and that. And that actually like, so the wife who wanted to move now is actually like, no, you're right. Let's not move. Like he is going to make more money. He's doing way better. Let's allow that kind of materialize. And on the second side, he's just like, well, that kind of, okay. Like, I guess now I'm going to listen to my wife and maybe we'll do this because I'm getting what I want. But you know what I mean? And it's kind of, sometimes it's counterintuitive to think like that, right? When you get hung up on, I don't want to lose money on the house that I bought, right? And it's like, well, it's not really that way. Now, if your job is significantly affected right now and you're doing stuff like that, then it's more about that personal situation,
but
right? So
I think you brought up an interesting point, which is kind of really tied to how investment decisions are made. Many times the gut reaction that you have to an external situation is the opposite of what you should do if you're purely trying to get the best long-term like result, right? So when prices go down, if your gut reaction is to sell, then maybe don't sell, right? And maybe hold on for a little bit longer, and if it makes sense, maybe even buy, right? And then when prices are going up and you're like, I'm gonna hold it for the long term.
It's gonna go up forever.
Then maybe it's like, oh, maybe I should decide that, hey, if it hits a certain point and it makes sense, maybe I should let go. I will say one of the few clients that I helped during the peak, where I sold a few properties for him, came from conversations like this, where it was like, now he had bought properties before we started to work together, so he had a bit of a runway where he had owned these properties for like 10 years.
Some appreciation.
But then we were just having conversations like, what matters to you? Like, what's important? Like, he wanted to buy like a property in the Caribbean. He wanted to there were some goals he had, and it's like, okay, yeah, these properties, like some of them have made money. You don't have to sell everything, but like, let's pick and choose a couple that you think it makes sense to sell. And we sold, how many did I sell for? I sold at least two, and I think at least two properties, but they were sold like in 2021, 2022.
Prime time.
And yeah, like it gave him more flexibility because he let them go. Yeah. Even though it felt like as soon as he sold, probably like the next homes that sold behind it.
Sold right? for sure. Because that's what happens with things. Yeah. Like you're never going to, like we said earlier, you're never going to time it like, oh, I'm going to sell it February 2022 because I know that in March it's going to start to go down, right? Like that's just good luck. Like
I did sell one property in February, but I had to sell it in December to get to
and it was probably like kind of shit luck. Like you know what I mean? 100%. Like it wasn't like, hey, 100%. I think this is going to be the absolute peak, and 100%. That's why we're going to sell. It's more like, okay, we're on an upswing. Yeah, I might not sell at the absolute peak, but like this is kind of the time where if I'm thinking about doing something else, this makes sense. Whereas a lot of people were like, I can just hang on to this forever and it's just going to keep going like this, right? Which obviously doesn't generally happen. So,
what is your, I know it's a tough question, but what is your outlook? So like, yes, we're in a tough time right now. Next couple of years, who knows? But like, I'm curious, what is your time frame that you would feel confident things are going to be like, where, for example, for appreciation rates to go back to their long-term average.
Not losing, just back to long-term.
Not losing.
3%, 2%, whatever it is. Yeah. Great question. I mean, like I'm having the conversation that I have with a lot of people right now, particularly a lot of sellers, is what's your timeline?
Okay.
If your timeline is 1 to 2 years, we need to sell yesterday. And we need to price it aggressively.
Yeah.
If you need to sell, we need to price it aggressively. We need to move. The odds are not really in your favor that it's going to do anything good in the next 1 to 2 years. Yeah. And if it does, it's not going to be meaningful enough that you're going to have lost a lot. Yeah. right? Like maybe it does come up another 2%, but it's like, dude, like it's, you know, we've been going like this, like that's okay.
It may go down more and then come up.
Yeah, exactly, right? So now, if you're sitting here and you're like, you know, I'd like to sell, but I think I can hold on to this for 5 years, no problem. Like, it's not going to stress me out. Like, I'm in a good place with everything else. Then I'm like, I think you should probably hang on to it. Like, I've talked a lot of people out of selling properties because it's like, okay, well, here's what I think I want for it. Here's what I, you know, there. I'm like, okay, well, what is your horizon? And don't lie to me, because like that's the hardest part, where you get people that they say, I had this conversation in 2024 with people, and they're like, you know, what's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. But if you need to sell in the next little bit, like, now's the time to sell. Yeah. And they're like, no, I don't need to sell. I can hang on to it. Everything's good. And now those people are calling me and they have to sell. It's not, it's 2 years later, year and a half
they
later.
They weren't self-aware of their situation enough to like...
They thought they could handle 5 years. They couldn't even handle 2. And they lost money. They lost 10% probably, right?
Wow.
And so that being honest with yourself in that situation is very, very important. I mean... I would love to say that in 5 years. I think that's, you know, we're in 2026. By 2030, 2031, does it seem reasonable that we're back to kind of a little bit more of a normal market? I think so. Okay. I do think that there is a lot of factors involved.
Yes.
I think political factors are very big.
Well, if the Canada and US get a trade deal done, that's reasonable.
That helps.
And if immigration restarts, and construction restarts.
So this is we could get into the weeds here, but this is my caveat about it all. I think if you have a low rise, like 50s to 90s build, I think that's very safe to think that it's going to recover in the next 5 years. I think that is very, very, very safe.
Interesting.
I really hope this doesn't come back to bite me in 5 years, but I really think that's safe. If you own a new build or a townhouse and you're on a small little dinky lot and it was built 2019 to now, whatever, pick a year, you know, there's some variability there. I don't know if I feel nearly as confident about that.
Because of more supply?
So, like, what I'm seeing right now, and again, I'm not super into politics and everything like that, more locally anyways. Like, what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing that our government, particularly in Ontario, is pushing builders to build, right? There's a lot of different things, you know, there's the Build Canada Homes Act, there's like 14 billion that they're trying to literally build on the statement. It says, we are trying to help builders build when builders do not see a business case to do so. Okay, so like reading that scares the crap out of me, because what are builders going to build? They're going to build the same thing that they've been building, which has not been selling, because they know, so you've got an acre plot of land in the, like, I'm using random numbers here, but say you have an acre plot of land in the 90s, even like in the 70s, they were building, you know, 100 homes with 3 bedrooms on that acre plot of land, a random number, but right in the 90s, they were maybe building 125, 150 homes with 4 bedrooms. And that now it's like 250 homes with 4 bedrooms each. And so you're really, really kind of making it congested. Those are the properties that are not selling. And so if we continue to build those types of properties, we're like, the government is begging builders to build these properties, but builders can't sell these properties. What's going to happen to that section of the market? That to me is a lot more uncertain. I think there's a lot of external factors that need to go in there, because most of the people that were buying those properties were investors, and they were buying them for the pre-con appreciation, right? You buy it pre-construction, you rent it out for a few years, you sell it, you make your money, and right? So now all those neighborhoods are mostly rentals. Most local people don't want to buy in those neighborhoods because they would rather spend a similar price point, get a little bit of an older home, and have twice the lot.
I think the one caveat to this conversation is that we're talking about Niagara.
We were talking about Niagara. I don't know, GTA different. Like, I don't.
We're almost going to the tertiary cities in Niagara. If you go to like a Fonthill or a Grimsby, those newer subdivisions are not.
But they're not building these types of homes in those subdivisions.
Okay, interesting.
Like in Fonthill, you're not really seeing those. You're seeing like
a little bit nicer.
Yeah, well, so for instance, like a townhome bungalow in Fonthill is going to be on like a 35-foot lot.
Okay.
It's going to be a 19-foot lot in Thorold, 19-foot lot in Welland, 18-foot lot in Niagara Falls.
Okay.
Like,
I guess the townhouses, right?
They just get really, really tight, right? So when you're in an affluent area, like even go to like Niagara on the Lake, when you're in a more of an affluent area, builders are able to build things that are of higher quality, of a higher price per square footage, and are building what I would consider a more desirable property that people, although it's still depressed, people are transacting on those considerably more than they're transacting on like the, I call it like a high density townhome almost.
Yeah. So almost like the entry level.
Yes.
Which
is what
new
they're
build.
begging people to build.
Fair.
They're not begging people to build the nice
high-end
$750,000
right?
townhome in Font Hill. They're not begging people to build that. But that's what makes sense. Like if you look at like a good friend of mine's a banker, we were talking about like there's a home builder here like Rinaldi and Lucetta. Rinaldi specifically who we're talking about. And if you look at them, they've had so much opportunity to be the builder who just starts building because they've got great plots of land. They're really established. People want their products. They don't do it. They build very slow. They build higher end products that they don't allow other people in their subdivision. They'll build it slow. They'll maybe like do what most people wouldn't consider as a strong business thing. You could make way more money if you did this.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we've been in the business forever. We've seen these up and downs. We want to keep our neighborhoods solid. We want to keep them super desirable. And they're sitting there right now. They're not hurting at all. They're not scrambling. They're not losing 10% of their pre-cons that aren't coming and being built. Right? So it's a very, very, I think, different thing. I am super curious to see how the entry-level new builds shake out over the next 5 years. I will caveat my statement of the other ones with I have no clue what's going to happen there. I think it's very, very interesting what's going on. Like you even look at like we're in Welland, you look at the new live development in Welland, right? They bought that land, I forget, it was like 100 something million or whatever. They bought it for a lot. They're supposed to do all these building. It's on the water. It's in a great area of Welland. If that was bought by a local, slow, established builder, I think that area could be incredible. It wasn't. It was bought by more of an out-of-town cluster builder.
Yeah.
And I think I hope I'm wrong, but I think that area could not be great. It's in an area where currently it's super, super desirable. You've got the canal there. You've got all the amenities. The homes that are currently there are, even though you have a lot of semis and stuff like that, it's still very desirable because the semis are like, a semi on a 30-foot lot or a semi on a 19-foot lot's a really big difference.
Yes.
You can park a car between houses. There's these little things that really make the feel of the neighborhood a lot different. And I think that if they build kind of like the plans that they're saying, a lot of townhouses, a lot of kind of entry-level new builds there, I think that area could kind of not be great. And I think that you could see people continue. I hope I'm wrong on that. I really, really, really do hope I'm wrong. But it doesn't look like that's the way it's going.
How do you feel like so all of these incentives to reduce the cost of construction and this push for the like lower priced new built homes, essentially lower relative to what it was before. How does that impact the resale market? So you're saying some neighborhoods, especially the nicer neighborhoods where they have generous lot sizes, mature like tree-lined streets, they will kind of be insulated, but there's got to be some segments of the market that really start hurting because their buyer pool is debating between that property and the new builds, right?
And that's what's interesting. So like I've had conversations with people who, especially recently, they came out with this HST rebate. People call me, we want to sell, like we're planning on doing this, but we want to take advantage of this HST rebate because this is a good opportunity for us as a buyer.
Okay.
I think they're wrong.
Okay.
I think they're very, very wrong because that new build is still selling for considerably more than a 5-year-old property that's built by the exact same builder in the exact same subdivision. Yeah. So yes, you're saving $90,000 or $100,000 on HST.
But you're paying a premium for that never lived in.
That's never lived in property. Yeah. And these ones are all down and depressed, not being sold by builders with deep pockets, but are being sold by individuals who do not have deep pockets and need to sell these properties. Yeah. So like, I don't really think that
but it's got to affect those 5-year-old homes.
I think it will.
Right?
I think it will. I think you're going to continue to see those 5-year-old homes kind of, there's going to continue to be a delta there between the two. I think I think what's actually going to happen is it's not going to help the new home sell. I think it's going to help push the prices down to the 5-year-old homes, which is ultimately hopefully going to make them sell.
Interesting.
I could be wrong on that. I don't know.
How do you feel about the really entry level first time home buyer market? Like we've seen transactions in the 300s to 400s.
Haven't seen that, like livable homes selling in the 300s, like very livable. Yeah. I don't know. That's almost like, I don't know.
Because it's an older product. The new product is never going to compete price wise. I think marginally, the person who could have maybe afforded the 500, who was buying below their means, maybe like, okay, maybe I'll stretch a little bit for the new. So it maybe takes a little bit out of that buyer pool. But
yeah. Honestly, like some of those are tough right now. Like I think like to me let's call it like, let's just use Welland for an example. As you get to cities, the prices get a little bit different. But let's use Welland for an example. I think like the 350 to 450 market is not nearly as hot as I thought it would be.
Interesting.
The 425 to 500 market, that right now is maybe even 550 depending on what you get. Like that to me is the sweet spot of what's moving, because you're able to get these very, very desirable products. You're able to get 70s builds. You're able to get 60s builds.
They've come down so much in price that they're in that range. Yeah. But you get a lot of bang for your
buck. So instead of spending 380, they're like, well, I can spend 450. Like instead of spending 380 or 390 on a wartime home with no basement doesn't have building code and all that other kind of stuff. Like you can go spend 50K more and you can get a brick bungalow. Maybe the inside's not quite as nice, but it's your grandma's house. It's clean. It's you can update it over time. Yeah. I'm seeing those move.
Interesting.
And again, I think that is some of that too, because again, you look at the wartime homes. Wartime homes are on like 30-foot lots generally. It's a detached home, but it's on 30, maybe 35, 40.
That's right. They are also small homes on small lots, kind of like what the new construction is going to be. Well, I guess that is their goal, right? They want to mimic the construction that happened after World War II, which was this like flurry of building.
They're trying to do not like cookie cutter, but they're trying to do like pre-approved building plans and stuff like that, right? So I don't know, man. Like to me, I think it just continues to make that case for like that, like if you got like a 70s home or something like that, that's like, I think that's the sweet spot right now. It will be interesting though, like you said, that like I'm really shocked at that like upper 3 to low 4 price point of like the wartime home. Yeah, they don't seem to be moving. Like it's super affordable for somebody, right? Like you buy a house that's super affordable.
Yeah, those were the homes that like if someone was renting right now and they're like, yeah, maybe I can try to buy. It's like, like the numbers are like close enough, right, to kind of make the job.
You're a first-time home buyer and you only have to put $20K down. Yeah, like as two people, if you have 2 people working, like that's kind of reasonable.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, but I don't know. It's kind of there's a couple sections of the market that are more interesting, and then obviously we jump back up to like the more 3/4 plus market, and I think that's again very different. Again, I think there you're seeing an even bigger push away from the new builds, like the new builds that are the 2,500 square foot big home. Yeah. That is on whatever, it's a 40-foot lot, but it's a big house and stuff like that. I think you'll see, like what I'm seeing anyways, is you're seeing people that would rather go, okay, I'm gonna go buy a 90s build 2-story. That's on a little bit bigger lot, maybe a little bit more dated. I got a neighborhood's a little bit more established. That's another kind of section. You're not seeing as much transact there. But yeah, I think it's gonna be, we're gonna get, this market right now is very product dependent. I think it's going to continue to do so. I think it's going to continue, like kind of the haves and the have-nots. We're going to continue to see this divide in certain sections of the market. And that's what I'm not sure how it shakes out. That's what I want to know. Like I want to talk to these people who are in government making these policies. Like, are you guys aware of this? How do you project this working out? Because to me, there's no real clear path to...
Yeah, in a funny way, it's easy to cut development charges when you're not collecting any, all right? Because this would have been great when the market was booming to like spur more building of homes that were affordable. Maybe slow down the market when it was at its peak, where it's like, hey, there's like supply of new builds, there's supply of resales, right?
Such a good point. Like, okay, when the market's booming, that would have been the time to put in all these incentives to slow down the market a little bit before it got out of hand, kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Now the market's going like this, and we're basically doing things that seem like
it's like CPR. We're trying to revive the construction industry.
We're trying to revive the construction industry, but that's only going to continue to
tank the real resale market. Right?
Yeah.
So
right. And again, I think it's going to be very product dependent on that. I don't think it's going to take certain sections of it, but I think it is going to continue to tank other sections. So interesting.
Yeah, the one comment that I heard that was somewhat insightful is that there's a lot of buyers waiting for their home to sell. So it's not like buyers have disappeared off the map. There's a lot of people that can't move because, like, whether they're not willing to accept the current price or maybe they're just not able to get a buyer for their home.
I've got several of them.
Yeah. So at some point, like, anyways, before prices can recover, this is my theory at least, I feel like transaction volume needs to come up first, where there's a meeting of the minds between buyers and sellers. There's an acceptance of this is the new market price. Sellers are okay with it, buyers are okay with it, and like where transactions happen. And only once, which is kind of weird because when the market was going up, supply was low, right? So I think to get to the point supply is low, we need to first go into that balance where transactions are happening. Like instead of 100 properties coming in, like 20 selling, it's like 50 come on the market and like 40 sell, right? And like it starts to get to the place where it's like if you want to move, you can reasonably expect your home to sell at a price that, like, when they're having that conversation with you at the listing presentation, they're like, okay, we can actually get this price with like 80% certainty.
Well, it's also like you can actually sell for what the comparables are, because right now you can't sell for what the comparables are.
You need to be less.
Which is like, that's a fun listing conversation, which is what I have all the time, right? Where you're like, okay, so in February we had one sell for here, in November we had one sell for here, and in October we had one sell for here. So you guys need to be below all those. What do you mean? Those sold, our house is better. Well, the market's continued to go down in the meantime, and that's where I think it would be really cool if we got to a place where it's like, okay, here's the comparable sale. If we price it in range of the comparable sale, we're going to sell. Whereas like right now, like I know I got a property, it's the lower one, it's in like the low 400s. We were looking at comparables and like, oh, like last comparable, like 440, 430, we should be really good in that price point. Since we've listed it, you've had probably 10 properties come on the market under 430 that are kind of comparable. And so you're like, oh, all of a sudden that doesn't look very good. Right. So
I know we covered a lot on this episode, but hopefully if you're watching to the end, you found some of that insightful. We'll definitely share the details of this property along with the profit calculator and the financials with the email that we're sending out to our newsletter. And yeah, if you have any questions about the property or the market in general, feel free to reach out to either of us. Always happy to chat.
Awesome.
All the best.